I will just record this, and then later I will cut this into a video. Before I do that, Thomas, are you fine with later after I cut this video to post it in my YouTube channel for the students to review?
For sure, I'd be honored. Thanks,
Okay,
Klaus.
good. No, I just wanted to double check. Okay, so let's start today with Thomas.
So I have
Go
about a
ahead.
half hour.
Yeah,
All
yeah. As long
right,
as long as you need. I don't have a
all right.
strict
No, I
deadline.
won't. I don't want to go too crazy.
Yeah.
I can go. I just taught for 2.5 hours and I couldn't stop.
Yep, it's all good. No worries. No worries.
All right, can I share a PowerPoint then?
Yeah. Let me quickly introduce you to everybody.
Okay.
Because I don't know if all the students met you before or know you since we are in included for such a long time. Oh, there's Mike. Mike, can you hear us?
Yeah, hey. Man, I'm got all this other, I'm a techie guy, and well, I'm a sucker for tech. And so I was messing around with a lot of stuff, so it started getting all messed up.
Okay. Very
Sorry
good.
about that.
Yeah, and sorry, no worries. I felt like you had some sort of technology issue to set this up. No problem.
Yeah.
So here's one quick question. Thomas, do you want to go first, or do you want to listen to Mike first and then speak? It doesn't really matter which way we go.
It's up to Mike. Either way.
Mike,
So the last thing I heard was, I think Thomas was getting ready to start.
Yeah.
So I'm cool with that.
Okay.
Cool with
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Good. Perfect. So, Mike, let me quickly introduce you also to Thomas. So, Thomas is our faculty who teaches. Thomas, everyone right now, museum and exhibit.
Yeah, gallery museum management.
Well, museum management. Okay, yeah. And he also runs our our gallery actually on campus. So I thought he would be a perfect faculty to join this project, considering that what we are going to do for you is actually for setting up exactly the same thing and including providing a workspace for somebody. Good. Then for everybody in the class. So welcome to today's presentation. So we have two speakers, Thomas, who, as I mentioned already, runs our gallery. He organizes everything there together with some students and his helpers. And then he also teaches the gallery management course. And I think he will be an excellent source also when you have further questions to ask, because he understands the whole business of running and setting up shows basically firsthand. And then our second speaker today, the client, is Mike, who then will talk about his organization, the space. You got photos of the space, and then he can talk more also about his vision and the thoughts for this project. Then let's actually start today's talk with Thomas, and then go ahead. And
all right, that sounds good. It's really nice to be here. Thank you, Klaus and Mike. It's really nice to meet you too. And looking forward to seeing your presentation for sure. And seeing what you guys are up to. Sorry, I'm a little under the weather. My voice is raspy, but we'll get through it here. Klaus, can I share that?
Yes, I gave you share access. You're
all right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you'll see this?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you again, Klaus. My name is Tom Persuski. I'm the director of galleries at Wayne State University. We have two art galleries, one next to the main art office in the community arts building, and then the other on the south side of campus in the annex of Old Main. and I'm going to talk about those. But first, I want to talk about a little bit about my background and my own artwork and how it enabled me to transition into this position that I'm in. So, gosh, okay. My background, of course, I was worried about getting a job. So I really was focused on design, and I studied advertising design at St. Clair Community College for 3 years. I was one business math class away from getting a degree, but I wanted to go to CCS. And so at CCS, I continued my design skills. And during this time, this is when the Adobe package just, came out. I was using Corel Draw and stuff then, and I didn't have access, and the package was super expensive, and I didn't have a computer. And I still wanted to study design because I was afraid of not getting a career, because I've always been a fine artist ever since I was a little baby. And so I tried to integrate graphic design and fine art in utilizing the materials I had, which at this point I was working at I ran a maintenance crew at a campground, but working at a gas station where I was working like 16-hour shifts, and I didn't have a computer and I was bored. So I started doing these like graphic design works on a Xerox machine. And this medium was so experimental to me, and I ended up meeting a colleague who is actually a professor of graphic design at in the University of DePaul, and we formed this collaborative called Superior Valley, and it was mixed between art, music, writing, all of these things, and fine art and graphic design. And that became my interest. My interest still was, how am I going to pay off these student loans? So I had like, I stayed in the graphic design realm. I built websites for a funeral home. I studied interactive media, but I still wanted to become experimental with my design and fine artwork. So these are some of the examples of not having access to Adobe Photoshop or the package. This is back when in '98. I don't know, Klaus, if you remember what key lining is.
I used to
be key lining.
I used to be before my time.
Graphics editor for a newspaper, and we didn't have PageMaker even or InDesign, and we used to have to do everything cut out. And so I got really experimental with this kind of application for design. And then these are a couple more experimental images of just using the copy machine. So my point with all of this is to utilize the resources you have available to you, and that will make your artwork original. And so once I learned Flash and the Adobe package and Dreamweaver, I started to develop these interactive websites. Sorry, I couldn't get the interactive link, but these are stills from it. So taken from the copy machine into this interactive realm was important to me, because there was a lot of 3D graphics starting to happen and stuff. I'm like, well, I'm going to utilize this. So this is a still image from a website. You could roll over these, and it's interesting. This was back in '98, and they have Oculus goggles on, which weren't even really heard of that. Here's another still from the website. So this was all done in Dreamweaver with Flash, and before, right when Photoshop package started coming out. again, this is a still image of a performance, well, an installation that I did while I was working at the gas station. You know, sitting there 16 hours overnight, it's 2 a.m. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make some artwork and with the resources that I have. And then, so during this time, I, excuse me, I started to really think about what art is, design is in the physical realm. And I was sort of drawn to sculpture then because, you know, sculpture is 3-dimensional. You're in the same time and place. And I started to think about presence. What is persistence of vision? What is presence? What is on a 2D monitor? What's not? What's the most impactful form of art in the presence? And to me, that was performance, which I hate performance. It's super uncomfortable to me. But in performance, not theater, but performance, you are actually creating the art as it's being perceived. And you can't get more present with the viewer than that. So I started to get interested in performance. And this is going to get to the design aspect of how do you transform a space to create an interactive space for the viewer to be part of this. So I started, I became, really focused on my sculpture work because of the in space and time. But this is an image. This was at the Music Hall of Detroit as part of the Fringe Festival. And I was like, on the left, that's me, like literally in my own sculpture, trying to perform in my sculpture and make the work at the same time. And then this is my sculpture in general. I'm interested in presenting my artwork in a space that's non-traditional, because I think you definitely always need to think about the surrounding architecture and landscape when you're presenting any kind of design, any artwork. And to me, this is more appealing in this space than a traditional gallery for the content of what my work is. This was at the 555 gallery. Sorry, my voice is hoarse. Back in the day, but I prefer this more than the traditional gallery for this piece. This one too, curated into this exhibition. The contrast of the hardwood floor makes the the colors and the vex and concave areas in the sculpture pop out. Now, if this floor was like maybe white or something, I would have chose a different sculpture that maybe had more earth tones in it. Always considering about the architecture in the space. This one here is interesting to me because it doesn't really fit the space. You can see a traditional artwork on the left of it, but then this piece on the right is just like, doesn't typically fit in a gallery space. And this is why my work isn't always saleable, because who wants this in their living room, right? And please interrupt me and let me know if you have any questions at all. But I just wanted to share an excerpt from my artist statement with you. What I really think about is interaction with the viewer, having the viewer be present in my process. In the process, I'm trying not to say my. And to do this in my artist statement, I try not to use, the Beatles, I, me, my. And it's about the process. Same with the performance art I was talking about, and the architecture and the landscape. So an excerpt, discarded objects with curves and diagonals are collected. Natural deadfall. Oh, I'm so sorry. natural deadfall and human made. Bend, cut, and assemble. The armature is constructed. Muscle is applied similar to a body. Cloth that has been soaked in paint is placed onto the structure, providing durability, skin, and color. So what I'm really focused on in my artist statement is the presence of the viewer. It's not my work. It's not I made this. It's not my work speaks on a wall. My work doesn't have a mouth in a gallery. It doesn't like literally talk unless it's designed to do that. So that's like really what I'm focused in. And I think having the viewer presence in the process is important for any creative work we do. And then I'm gonna go through this real quick. This is influence I had. It's just like a basic influence when so with my history, I really wanted to teach. And so that's why I got my master's degree from Wayne State University. Little did I know my sculpture would develop because I had a really good advisor. And I started to think about it. And to teach, you need an MFA degree and you have to apply around the country. At that time, my mom got sick, so I really didn't know what to do. I had to stay here and take care of her. And she had a really beautiful dog that I took over. And the energy of the dog was inspirational to me. The aura of, his name was Murphy. It was a small Maltese, but it influenced a lot of my artwork in a weird way. So during that time, I had a studio. So this is where, I know some students say they work a lot. I worked just 24/7. I worked 40 hours as a manager of a maintenance crew at a campground. I worked there for 16 years, aside from the amical position, and I ended up making $8.50 an hour at the end. I never asked for a raise because I was blessed with this space, this 2-story pole barn, where it allowed me to just go crazy and make work. And then as soon as I became a gallery director, I had to lose the space because I didn't have time to keep it. And at that time, my mom passed. And so I had to sort of stay in Michigan. And I fell into this realm of being a gallery director. And during this time, I lost my space. But if you notice that piece on the cart right there, that is a $15,000 commission that I started working on for through the National Endowment for the Arts for a permanent installation on the campus of St. Clair County Community College. So I had to figure out what the hell am I going to do. So I adapt, and I asked my sister, can I build this thing in your backyard? And so I had a crane going over a house with this thing, and a 5,000-pound sculpture, and you just adapt to the resources you have is what I'm saying. And then sorry about that, this is what I created in my sister's backyard. And I'm like, this is an outdoor sculpture, so I'm okay with working in the rain and the sun, whatever. And it was installed in fall. And I had to design it in a way, so I had to adapt with no studio space. I had to design it. I was under contract, and I had a time limit, and I had to still get an area where I could design it where it still made sense with the architecture and the surrounding landscape. And then this is the final product. It fits the architecture. It's the biggest sculpture I've ever made. It's taller than me. It has this rounding area. The concept of it, the color of it is, like I was saying earlier, contrast from the earth tones. And then around the revised parking lot is bioswale, where it's newly developed, where there's no sewage system. And the part of the concept about my work is utilizing human-made and natural deadfall materials. And so my point with all of this is sometimes you got to adapt and you got to consider the architecture and embrace the moment and deal with what you got. Are there any questions, or Klaus, am I good?
I think there was one student who had one question. She was curious what the inspiration of your work is.
The inspiration of my work is definitely, I like abstract work. I'm inspired by music. I'm inspired about, as I said earlier, being in the same space and time presently as the artwork, and that's why I like sculpture. I mean, I'm a video artist and I do 2D. I look at persistence of vision, but I like being in the same physical realm as the artwork. And to do that, symmetry creates stillness. And I'm really interested in curves and diagonals to create even more of a presence. And I try my hardest to keep it present, but sculpture is a sculpture. That's why I'm interested in performance too, which I hate doing. I don't know.
Mary, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, so it's your story is kind of incredible to hear about how you didn't really have very many I don't know, just the struggles that you went through. And I was wondering if that was ever like really hard on you as far as like motivation, and like with your mom being sick and passing away and not having a studio space, was that ever like mentally like really taxing, and how did you get over that?
That's such an awesome question. And yeah, it was mentally taxing. And that's, I think, how I, always look at crises and how you can actually benefit from it. And I think because of that, during that time, it motivated me to really create more artwork than I might have if I wasn't in that situation. I was just so overwhelmed with everything. Alls I would think about is just making artwork to try to articulate this energy that I'm feeling.
Jessa, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, what kind of musical inspiration do you have? Because a lot of my work, I'm inspired by music as well.
I'm really inspired by
look like saxophone.
it goes back, a lot of this is relevant to my mom too. We were big, we both love Motown, like big time, and jazz. And when I talk about my sculpture and I do workshops, summer workshops, I teach about how rhythm is abstract. So you have your conceptual art, but when you look at a piece of abstract art, it's a rhythm. It's the same thing as listening to a song without lyrics. Jazz, Motown, and hip hop. I've been a huge hip hop fan. My mom, I think she probably purposely bought me a Public Enemy, Apocalypse Strike Black album and put it in my Easter basket when I was like 14, and that was it. I'm a huge hip hop fan. I'm like an encyclopedia, hip hop encyclopedia. But yeah, so that's the kind of rhythm and the musics that inspired me.
I have another question. It's really nice work, and I love this one, the still have the picture posted. Have you tried to color, like make different colors? Do you have any piece like that with different color? It would be interesting if like you add more color to that.
I love that. Yes, I'll keep going here, Klaus, if you allow me time.
No, I mean, just not too much.
Yeah, no, I have more. So again, adapting to studio space. That one summer, you know, with that grant was outside. That was my studio space. I was working on the back of my truck. I had an apartment. I destroyed my kitchen, didn't give my security deposit back in my apartment, but make artwork wherever I can. And then when I decided I really need to move back to Detroit because I'm sick of the drive from that pole barn too. And so I moved to Hamtramck, and in my back, in the backyard, there was this garage. The door was held up by a shopping cart. I took 4 truckloads out. They were dead rats I had to scrape off, live rat nests. Power wash the whole thing with bleach all the way down, ran electric insulation, and this is my current studio now. And again, like you adapt, and I built this pretty much myself. It was just an abandoned garage. I'm going to talk a little bit about, I've been doing a lot of drawing too.
Nice.
And your question about color is coming into play. Left one's charcoal. I've been using a lot of graphite, and but the right one was during COVID, and I really honestly, that time I didn't even want to go to Blick and get supplies, or I just use found supplies mostly anyway. But I had a bunch of paint marker left over, and just started making artwork with what I had. I did order some oil pastels, and here's an image of this is about a 3 by 5 foot, I think, pastel drawing, oil pastel.
You feel with color, it has life more.
What was that?
I said when you add color to it, you feel like there's life inside the piece of art that you did.
Yeah, for sure. Some of it's like super stagnant. I used a lot of the whites during that time. That sculpture that I showed you was named Mary Beth. That was my mother's name, and the big one that was installed, and that was in 2011. And it was definitely a lot of whites and blues during that time. Now the colors are starting to change, but I just roll with it, you know. It's just the vibe that I get as an artist. This is I just wanted to show this real quick. This was and going back to your question about color, this was a program that I decided to join over the summer, and I was matched up with a cancer patient surviving stage 4 breast cancer. And we were teamed up to make an artwork together based on our experiences. And I was drawn to this because, again, my mother was sick. So what I would do, and this is the first time I've done this, would meet with her, and she would tell me about color. She would tell me about aura. She would tell me about what she feels. And so this is what we created together. And she had blues, yellows, golds. A lot of it was dealing with her pregnancy and her baby, and there was a fetus in it. So this is an example of how I explore color. This is in the studio, and that's a close-up. I'm sorry about my music. All right, so Klaus, am I good? I'm gonna go quick here.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Now I want to get into some of the architecture of our galleries. Do you all have any questions about my background or work? I think I just felt like sharing that with you would, you know, we really like, I'm focused on artists and designers utilizing the materials and the surroundings and the environment that they have instead of like forcing anything. For example, when I used to teach sculpture, I do a mixed media project, and the students would come in with about $100 worth of fake moss and stuff bought from Michaels. And I'd be like, man, the piece smells like Michaels. Like, utilize what you have, like the fake moss, you know what I mean? So that's like that's what's important to me, is like we're all creative and have significant opportunities that are different than one another. So we have 2 galleries at Wayne State, the art department gallery. We have 2 different missions too. And the missions aren't only based on what we need to show, but they're totally based on the architecture and the surrounding environment and climate control and all of that. So the art department gallery on the north side of campus, we feature works by students, faculty, alumni, community-based groups. The gallery itself is not climate controlled. You see the windows on the left, they are not UV protected. There's no film on them. The gallery was built in the 50s, and it was actually a lobby to start. And the walls on the right of this image were installed in about the 70s and sort of like confined space a little more to serve as a gallery. Now, the architecture of this gallery is phenomenal because it overlooks the Yamasaki pool. Minoru Yamasaki, who, if you haven't studied Yamasaki, he built a Japanese artist, designed the first 2 trade centers. And then he designed the reflecting pool that's outside of our gallery on the left of this image that you can see, and the McGregor Memorial Conference Center. And this 4 or 5 years ago has been named a historic landmark. So anytime we have an exhibition, we utilize the architecture. When I first started, before I was director, I had someone, you see that portable wall back here? I had someone block off every window with portable walls. And it's like, you gotta respect the space and utilize the architecture. And I understand there's light sensitive that can come in and ruin fabrics or whatever, but you just deal with that. So it's a beautiful space. The outlook is awesome over the pool, and we curate many shows that relate to the space itself. This is another image of the space, again, which not just exhibition design and installation. There's always the marketing, budgeting, facility operations, all that, special events. But this is an image of a guest musician that we brought in. And I love this shot of utilizing him almost as a piece of artwork overseeing the Yamasaki pool. The Jacob Gallery, okay, going back to this one. So this isn't climate controlled, and that decides our mission because we're not allowed to borrow from museums and galleries that require a specific facility forms, which is the American Alliance of Museum Facilities and Guidelines. If you were to borrow from MoMA or the DIA, we couldn't show in this gallery because we don't have humidity control. We don't have UV protection. We don't have climate control, all that. But that's fine. That's a different mission. Then the Jacob Gallery was built in '98, and this gallery was built for this specific reason and to serve another mission for our students, to show artworks from regional, national, international museums that vary in scale and emerging famous artists. And with that, this space is climate controlled. We have, this space is humidity controlled. The windows on the left are all UV light. So when the brighter the sun gets, the darker the windows get. If you look up here, we have security cameras, 360 on both levels. If you breach the glass or the doors, public safety is notified. So it's straight up museum. And so that's the difference. We're allowed to borrow from major galleries and museums in this. And this gallery, going to the architecture, is really, it was built in '98, and I think the architect built malls. And I think it's the same architect, if you're over at CCS in their new Ford building, built those, designed that interior too. I like this exhibition, because this is significant. If you look at this piece here on the left, it's James Lee Byers' exhibition. That was that piece was on loan. It's worth $300,000. This chair on the right is worth $600,000. But the most important component of this is looking at the architecture and how do you navigate the space and see through, and how do you install. And I call it the viewer shot right when you walk in the gallery. First impression is everything. So we have these weird columns. You don't want something blocking the columns. So right when you walk in, here's the shot of this exhibition. And what I really wanted to, was super excited about is, so with this show, we worked with the Smithsonian, we worked at the DIA, we worked with the Michael Warner Gallery, we worked with MoMA. We produced a high-end catalog. It was a lot of work, a lot of interior design planning, like huge, like the wall on the right, that's red, all of this. But James Lee Byers worked in gold leaf, and this is fit the mission of this exhibition so much. And we had 3 interior design students get compensated with scholarships to create this gold column and this gold circle on the floor, which is now their names are being recognized in a catalog that's in the Smithsonian, in all of that. And these are our three interior design students. And this right here is why I want to like work with Klaus and you guys more. Like it's all the same thing. Here's another shot of that. And we bring in pretty intense artworks, but utilizing that circle area is important to us. And you get an example of the kind of artifacts that we bring in, including this big head. Klaus, I think I might stop right there unless you all want to keep going. I don't want to take
yeah, maybe before we let Mike go ahead. It's really interesting how you started actually this presentation talking about your own journey into art making, because you kind of like, you can see it from the side of the curator, but also from the side of actually an artist, which gives you a really unique perspective. Are there particular could you maybe talk about how you, let's say you have to create a new exhibit, could you talk about in general terms maybe about some of the process, how you approach this? It doesn't have to be for a particular exhibit, but maybe just some general observations, tips, do's or don'ts you could share with the students based on your experience doing this.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just gonna blow through a couple of these, just showing installation images. yeah. So it's all a creative process in a way where if you're trying to force an exhibition, it's not going to be successful. So my approach, and a lot of curators' approach and designers' approach, is to go for the gold and come up with like a really great concept. But when you're putting that together, you need to like really evaluate the mission of what the space is, what their funding looks like. Is it profit or nonprofit? What is the concept of what you're installing? Whether it's at the auto show or at MOCAD, like what is the mission? And then you select works in our approach. But before you do that, you sort of come up with the concept and then just start to reach out. And then, but what I think is important to really evaluate the floor plans of the space you're going to be dealing with, right? So already have an arsenal. You want to answer any questions before they're asked, if you can. I don't know, does that make sense?
Mhm.
So if you're going to propose an exhibition at the art department gallery and you have an international artist, right then as a gallery director and a chair of an exhibitions committee, it doesn't make sense because it doesn't fit the mission and you didn't research it. Now, if it was proposed at the Jacob Gallery, where we do feature regional, national, international artists, that would make sense. So just that alone, knowing the mission of the space is super important.
Does any of the students have a question for Thomas?
Can
don't
I
have a
show?
question, but I just wanted to say that it was really, really cool to see your work. And I also love that you shared part of your life and what you went through, because I realized after being in museums and seeing other people's art, everything kind of go back to their own life or their own experiences. So it was great that you shared that. I was kind of preparing us to what we were going to see and look at it in kind of your own eyes in a way, like how you went through and what you could create at that time. So it was really, really cool.
I appreciate that so much. And Klaus, could I get 5 more minutes?
You have it
Okay.
all.
All right. No, just like if you guys aren't getting sick of me yet.
No, talk. I think it's good to know.
So at the Jacob Gallery, well, I want to touch on some interior design stuff. At the Jacob Gallery, those window walls were they cracked, and we had programming implemented in place, and the window walls had to be like just torn out. And during that time, we're in hiatus, and like I said, you have to adapt to whatever you have accessible to you. So what we did instead was like, okay, let's make it everything a gallery. And the McGregor Conference Center that I was showing outside of the art building, it took a ton of meetings and a ton of facility arrangements because it's a historic landmark. The buildings, it's all marble. You can't screw into the wall. So we had to really come together, and we came together with a proposal and then installed it in the conference center. And we installed 10,000 feathers with this artist, Bailey Liu, who's she's from University of Texas. And how does it interact with the space, the color, the lighting? She's Asian. The Yamasaki is the webbing. So we installed 10,000 feathers dipped in tar. It still had to keep the space functional. We had to install it 12 feet or higher. We can't screw into the walls. What kind of medium, what kind of materials are we going to use to install it that makes sense with the concept, which is this bird webbing, their feathers. The bird webbing has this matrix that complements the ceiling and the windows of the architecture. It all just fell together, and we just made it up. And this is what the installation looked like. And it was really well received by the provost and president. So utilizing what we can when we're in a pinch. So yeah, that's the McGregor Conference Center.
Wow, I thought this is like you know, like diamond. Looks like a diamond from far away until you make it closer.
Thank you. She's a beautiful artist. Yeah, you should look
It
her up.
is.
I'll send a link to her website in the chat. But yeah, this was just sporadic. Where it's like, what are we gonna do? Have earth art in the Jacob Gallery with the windows, break it out, or do something somewhere else?
I have another question. How did you transition from being a student and a sculptor to like running galleries?
That's a crazy question. That's just an awesome question. I was terrified of galleries when I was even a grad student. I wouldn't even go into our Jacob Gallery. I didn't like the atmosphere. I wouldn't go to MoCAD. I didn't like all of that. And when my mom was sick, I had no choice to stay here, and I just graduated with my MFA. And after my show, I was invited to be a preparator in the gallery and hang the artworks. Little did I know I'd learn about facilities, marketing, budgeting, exhibition design, season design. And I had no choice but to stay. It was a job, and it was with what I wanted to do. And then my predecessor ended up leaving, and I just fell into the space. And yeah, it just happened. And when I started working in the galleries, I developed this management course, which I have the slide up right now. I'm like, what did I just spend $200,000 for? I learned graphic design, web design, sculpture, performance video, all of this. But what did I spend that for? And I developed this program. I'm like, in this program, any medium, whether you're art history, design, fine art, theater, anthropology, business, it all correlates. And so I don't know if I went too far off, but now I'm not afraid to go in the galleries because I run the damn thing.
What's interesting to listen to your point is also how essentially you started somewhere and then kind of like you were open to every type of opportunity. When you were talking about like limited access to resources, this reminded me a lot about when I was a student myself, particularly in jewelry making. I was here as an international student and working with silver or gold. I mean, that's truly an investment. So I lacked actually a lot of the foundation because I did not have an undergraduate degree in jewelry making, but I needed to produce work for the shows. So I went into digitally prototyped all my designs digitally first, so then I would know how much material I need to put it back together, which was actually quite unusual and created a good level of frustration with my faculty, actually.
I love that.
Because I was not a jewelry student anymore. I was a digital art student doing jewelry. But
I just loved you saying a good level of frustration. That's like perfect.
But the funny part actually of that is, so that's the reason why I bring this up. This is actually more also for the other students to understand this. That's not really about me, but just to see what the journey you go through and also how you can influence other people. Actually, my advisor, so the person who runs jewelry at Bowling Green, now because of the frustration he had with me not doing what I was supposed to do because I couldn't afford it. But he actually now teaches a lot of digital stuff too, and brings me in for workshops. Like this Friday, actually, I will give a workshop at Wayne State too for the digital art students. And it's this connection would not have happened, this understanding would not have happened in case there wouldn't have been these struggles. And I guess my overarching comment, maybe this is more like a mentor point, is Tom and I we were talking about the frustrations we had. You will in your studies see frustrations too, and I totally agree with Thomas. Frustrations aren't problems. They're not blocks. They're actually, see them always as motivators to try to be more creative and work around them, because you never know actually what might come out of it. If you don't try, you never know.
I love that, Klaus. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. You could just say I was a failure, but well, I didn't end up where I wanted to end up, but I ended up somewhere else. That's good too.
Yeah. Oh, I like, I got to the end and I realized the map was upside down. It's okay though.
Good.
Yeah, I have, I think I'm gonna end it right there though, Klaus.
Okay.
I
One
want-
quick question. Sorry, it has nothing to do with the presentation. What year you were at Henry Ford Community College? Because I feel like your face is familiar.
Oh,
I took my associate degree there.
no, I wasn't at Henry Ford.
Oh, okay.
I think you mentioned like Sinclair, right?
Yeah, yeah. So St. Clair County Community.
St. Clair College. Oh, okay. St. Clair, we have St. Clair College in Windsor. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I mixed between Henry Ford and St. Clair. Sorry.
No, this was St. Clair Community College in
Yeah.
Port Huron.
Okay.
It's right
Sorry.
across from Sarnia. And then,
Yeah. Oh, Sarnia. So you're in Canada. You took it.
right across from, no, I'm not from Canada. I'm actually born in Detroit and then grew up north a little bit. Went to community college up there and then came back to CCS and Wayne State.
Oh, okay.
And I lived.
Sorry to ask, but I just felt like your face is familiar.
It's okay. Thank you.
Good. Perfect. Mike, do you want to take over?
Sure. I can jump in. I was
yeah. Let me quickly introduce you first.
Sure.
So, because I think it's really interesting for the students to know how you and I got to know each other.
Okay.
Because one day, and again, this is the reason why I bring this up, is just for you all to understand how opportunistic you should think. One day, I think I forgot her name, but a student came into my office and said, I was at this place, I think it was a coffee shop or something, and then there is this one person who saw I was doing interior design, and he approached me if I could do something for him. The person was Mike, and the student then later kind of like connected us, and I think this roughly started 2 years ago. No, yeah, over 2 years. Yeah. And Mike, basically since 2 years, we kind of like talk about this property has. You saw some of the photos, and oh shoot, I forgot my what I wanted to say. Oh, great. I love it when this happens.
How you met him and the connection.
Wah, wah. Well, I guess what I tried to say is like it was really interesting actually how we got introduced, because it was more like really a fluke, and this turned over 2 iterations of doing this project. Now we're doing this project actually the 3rd time, because also for me it was each time a learning step to take. And we also then had the pandemic in between, which now we still have the pandemic, because it changes how I can or how you can experience this project. So I brought him in now again because I feel like we have now a better strategy, an idea what also will be achievable for the space he has. Yeah, Mike, would you like to start talking about it?
Sure. I was actually enjoying Thomas, man. I was enjoying looking at his work. So pretty much just as Klaus said, we met through that student who we were at a Starbucks in Southfield, and I seen her working on a project and asked her about her work and kind of got into the difference between interior design and interior decorating. So at the core, I run a religious space, a church at the core. And so what it is we have this building, this blank warehouse space that we didn't know what to do with. It was crowded full of stuff when we got it, and I just started little by little, me and my team cleaning it out. I guess I'll start with why I'm even interested in this art space at all. So what we're deciding to do with the building is because we are a non-traditional church, we kind of get into a lot of stuff. And so art is one of my passion, artists more so. I think my first introduction that I can remember of being kind of fascinated with art, Thomas may remember this coming up in Detroit. We had Northland Mall in Southfield. And as a young boy going through Northland Mall, there was a sculpture there, The Boy and the Bear is the name of the sculpture. I forget the name of the sculptor who did that, but it was like this big cement bear with a golden boy statue sitting on the bear's back. It's called The Boy and the Bear. I think Southfield, the city of Southfield, sold that, or either the mall sold that sculpture to like pay off some debt or something. But I remember seeing that sculpture as a kid and going to Northland Mall, coming up, seeing that. And then my dad would take us to the east side of Detroit and we would see the Heidelberg Project. We would go through the Heidelberg, and that was, of course, crazy and fascinating to see all of this various stuff, just to drive slow down the street to see what all you could pick out. And then probably the Grand Canyon, because we traveled every year. Every summer we went on vacations, and my dad hates to fly. So he drove from Detroit all the way to Vegas every summer. And he takes back roads and all this stuff. So I remember going to the Grand Canyon, seeing the Grand Canyon. And this was, I haven't been in a while, but as a kid, they used to kind of only have like just a rail around it. That's about it. You get right to the edge of it, and it was just a rail, and you look over in the canyon. Well, going through those deserts, my brother and I, we found this little sign. We drove maybe an hour or two into the desert, and in the desert there was a little hole, and a tour guide, and he walked us down into this hole, and it was an ice cave in the middle of the desert. And so you've seen all these icicles and stuff coming all out. And so this was my first kind of memory of starting to get fascinated with art and design and how things work. So fast forward to now, I ended up majoring in philosophy and psychology. I left that and went into religion, and I kind of view life as art. And that's where all these things have brought me to. I view life as art. I view people as art, the things that make people tick, the different moods and all of that stuff. And so in this space that we currently have, going into an art center, the inspiration has been coffee shops. I love coffee shops. I love museums. I like the way, not just viewing the art and seeing the exhibitions, but being in the space in the way that it makes people feel being in the space. For me, it's very calming. So I go to coffee shops and kind of art museums and stuff just to calm down. One of my favorite, Tom has mentioned it a few times, one of my favorite spaces actually is MoCAD. I love going to MoCAD because it's just like this industrial brick and cement, and it's just, I love it. Another place is Jam Handy. I don't know if some of the people have heard of Jam Handy. Jam Handy is over on East Grand Boulevard, just down from Woodward. But Jam Handy, it was an old movie sound studio and sound stage, and a young man bought it, and his name is Simeon. He bought it, and it's still raw. It's just like raw with this wood floor. There's this exposed brick. It looks like maybe a warehouse that is probably going to cave in or something like that. But it's like a great space to be in. So going into these various spaces, raw spaces, even from my childhood, going to the Grand Canyon, driving over the highway, when you're going down certain highways, like you get into Arizona and places like that, you look out the window and you see just sides of mountains and stuff on the side of you, and you look at the different textures and colors of clay on the backdrop of green grass and the blue sky and all this stuff. So all this stuff has stuck with me. And as I got more into philosophy, psychology, and religion, and the way that people form groups and their beliefs, all of this stuff just kind of became a big bowl of messy ice cream or something to me. And so just everything swirling in together. And so I end up with this space that we have over on West Davison. When I got the building, it was ugly, like very, very ugly. Just cinder block painted over with white, with ripped up red, ugly carpet, in these old church pews that were wood and red padding. It was a very ugly thing. But what I ended up doing was I found it interesting. And so I redid this small space and made it a little bit more modern, kind of put some different colors in there, put up some natural stone, did a stone wall, designed and built out this stage. And when I say design, meaning I just stood in the back of the building with one of my partners and just said, this is the way this is supposed to look. And another partner of mine, who's actually our building manager, he draws just by natural talent. And so as I told him what I seen in my head, he drew it out on paper, and the other guy came in and built it. So we put this space together, left these old church pews in there with this red padding against these stone walls and all the stuff that we put up, and threw some gold chandelier candelabras up, and I kind of liked the way it looked. And so it just got me into this whole energy and enthusiasm about transforming buildings, transforming spaces. Next space was our foyer, which we just did another install last year of a wood wall. And currently, right now, we're working on another space within the building that we're going to do into a cafe, where we're playing around with taking the floor, the ground there, which just has this like big ugly tile over the regular cement floor. And we're looking at building in designing kind of our own wood floor just out of plywood, staining some plywood, maybe marking it up a little bit, and just kind of doing our thing. So what it became about is, because we're a small group of people, how can we come up with a space that is inviting, that is different, that you don't even feel like you're walking into a church, that is a nice place that people want to be in, but do it on a very small budget, very grassroots, learning how to do things ourselves. And so that's been our focus. The major space is our warehouse space. I'm not exactly sure how big that is. It's a big, actually, Klaus may know better than I how big that space is, the square footage of that space. He's taking some measurements. And so it's been about how can we develop that into the full vision of what we're calling the Detroit Urban Arts Center. What led us right into this space of the Detroit Urban Arts Center was I met a young man who's a local artist, and he was getting together with some other artists, and they were just doing these grassroots meetups at various lofts, and they invited me. Excuse me, they called them murals and sliders. Just a bunch of people there painting on a big blank wall with some sliders going around. You grab a slider and eat a slider and just kind of watch. Each painter, each artist had his own section, and they just did what was in their mind. And then we all step back and see how it came together. I was interested in that, but as I stated before, what was more kind of interesting to me, more than just the artwork itself, was the people, the artists and the designers, and what made them tick, and what was their inspiration and their backgrounds. And as I begin to talk to more of the artists, I realized that as artists are producing their various works, they're pouring a lot of their emotion and mind and upbringing and maybe hidden thoughts and all of these into the art. And if you're paying attention, you can see that in design. You can see it in the art. You can see it in the way that they construct these things together. As I begin to talk to them more, they expressed to me that they had an interest for mental health with artists and designers, places where they can kind of not only design and produce their art, but also a safe space where they can kind of talk about what they were really going through and experiencing and all of that stuff. And so I guess I took all of this stuff and put it into a big ball and began to come up with the idea of the Detroit Urban Arts Center, where we will focus in on not only providing a space that will provide a platform for artists and designers, maybe who don't have the financial backing to kind of push their stuff out there, but also a safe space for them to come meet each other, talk over things. So our space is focusing in on not just design and artistry, but as well as life itself. We kind of call it a life space. Our thing is we're going to focus in on the art of life and the life of art. And so, yeah, that's where we're at. It's a really blank space, really raw space. Starting off, what we're looking to do is actually to also help us raise funds to bring it about, is to have it as a rentable space. So various people can rent it out, hold their own exhibitions there, or different events. And we'll use those monies that come in from that to go further into construction and getting things done in the building. The longer plan for the space is for us to fund and produce exhibitions, maybe co-working spaces where local artists can come in and produce their works. So it's kind of a work in progress. So I think I'd like to Klaus read our vision. So it's the DUAC, the Detroit Urban Arts Center, is a multi-arts center functioning as a cultural hub and community gathering space, offering a wide range of public and private programming. The UAC sets out to bring people from all walks of life together to enjoy the arts and enhance the community. We look to be at the center of influencing culture for the greater good of all. And our mission statement really is to enhance life, build community, and influence culture. Again, the thought behind it is life itself is art, and we want to get into the life of art and the art of life. So building a space where artists and designers themselves want to be in, kind of a coffee shop for them. I multiple times a week, probably multiple times a day, I find myself looking for coffee shops, even locally, that I have yet to be in, just to go in and kind of view how things are set up. Like there's one of my favorites is Dessert Oasis in Royal Oak, Dessert Oasis coffee shop. And what I love about the space is awkward. It's actually the bathroom, because in the bathroom they have this cracked cement standalone vanity, and it's this bowl, this ornate oriental bowl vessel sink sitting on top of this just blank cement block. And to me, it just looks great. It's just crazy. It's great. And so it's little things like that that I find inspiration in. And what we're doing now is just kind of one by one, little by little, step by step, building this space out. The entire building altogether is split into 3 large rooms with bathrooms and office and a kitchen in the space. So when you first walk through the doors, you're in our foyer. To the right is our small space that we're now working on turning into a kind of raw cafe. Then you have our main space that we've already redone, which houses people that are already renting it, as well as the church being there when it does its functions. And then to the left is our large space, our large warehouse, which is going to be our main space. It's the space probably Klaus has probably given you guys pictures and stuff on. And then we have an alleyway behind us and some vacant land there. And so we look to kind of develop that entire space to be a holistic space, an artist space. And then further down, maybe in a couple of years, a longer term vision is there is a vacant school, elementary school, that is next to us that we look to hopefully buy and take over and kind of develop that more into even studios for artists, young artists to come into in working space, school space. Maybe Klaus can come in there and maybe we can get Thomas to come in there and do an exhibition and take one of the rooms. And so that's what we're working on. I'm really on the ground level of learning about, which is a pleasure and an honor for me to meet Thomas, learning about how to run a gallery space and how to run a art space. Most of my background is in religious space. And so I've come up even running church facilities. That kind of makes me click as well, going to various cities and states, looking at various religious buildings and the architecture behind them, the thought behind why they built that way. So yeah, I don't know, Klaus, I don't know if there's anything else specific that you want me to touch on about the space.
So the students got access to the photos, the interior space, and I took also two videos of the inside, and they have a video also of the surroundings. So visually they're pretty familiar actually with it. They already also worked through one exercise to rebuild the space 3-dimensionally. So they have spatially a good understanding roughly what the space
And
is.
I'm sorry, I think Thomas had his hand. I thought he wanted to say something or interject.
Yeah, Tom, do you have
Walked
something?
away.
Yeah, sorry about that. Mike, I don't even know where to start. I'm excited about all of this, and there's so much crossover, Klaus, with what Mike's doing, what we're doing with our community outreach programming. I've just been writing notes. I'm super enthused by what Mike is trying to do. And a few thoughts that I have are, well, a quick question is, are there, what's the funding looking like?
So the funding currently, we've been doing everything grassroots. So I have a small partnership. Essentially, it's the church. Our small membership there. We raise the funds out of our own pocket to do various projects, including actually community outreach. We raise the funds out of our own pockets to get things done, get things reworked. We depend a lot on our connection base, or what we call our partnership base, which is just extended family and friends who know how to do various things, like electrical work and drywalling and all that stuff. So we kind of work within that to get the things that we want to get done. Currently, we have finished 501c3 for the Detroit Urban Arts Center. And so we're now looking to really get the ball rolling in on doing some bigger fundraising to get things done. Klaus and I have talked about even how, even with this group, in going into design and thinking about design, how to think about how things can be done on a budget, how to get the best out of just a little bit of resource, as it relates to not only just funding, but relates to materials used and all of that.
I got I'm so excited about this. One thing that comes to mind is we started a summer workshop program about 8 years ago. And what we do is, it's my truck, it's a banner, no money. We go out to the recreation centers and offer art workshops, kind of like the lecture I was saying, just based on materials that we have. The first year it was kind of crazy. We put a printing press in the back of my truck and went out and did prints. Detroit Parks and Recreation got word of it, and streamlined it. And the second year we got $15,000, and it sort of tainted it. And then we haven't really got that funding since, and it's been better without that funding. And so we've been doing that for 8 years now. If you all, I can put it in the chat, look at Mobile Arts, we're mostly on Facebook. We have to update our site. But yeah, we're utilizing resources that we didn't have, that we have access to. But the point of the workshop is, like, it keeps it like clean and real, because we don't have funding, and we have our own people come in and do the drywall, do the electrical and that kind of thing, and it keeps it right.
Yeah, and that's actually something Mike also, like when Mike and I talked about funding and how do we do this stuff, and the focus of this project this time, because it, as I mentioned before, this is not the third time I do this project, and you need a little bit of practice to really get into, like, from an academic standpoint, into good growth. But no, I feel like also for Mike, we have developed a format that will more lead to something he can also use. What's really interesting about his community, what he said, is they have also craftspeople. So the big focus of what the students will design is not necessarily off-the-shelf solutions, which cost a lot of money, but more something, how can they create something that can be implemented, built, installed by actually the members on their own. So you only basically need to buy the raw material, but the rest is then something the community can do, which I think is also a really great motivating and bonding element or activity to strengthen the community itself. And I feel like whenever you did something yourself, you're just valuing it a lot more than if it's somebody else did it for you or you bought it.
I think it's perfect, and it's a service learning project, and it's good for our students. It's good for the resumes. And then also, I was asking about funding, but you seem like you already have the space ready to go, and now it's just about transforming.
Yeah.
And
Right. So the
you're
space
already there.
Yeah, the space is ours. It's our space that we are buying on land contract. And so, again, at the core, it is we're a religious group. We're a church group, but we're a non-traditional church. So it worked out for us to get a non-traditional church building. And so the building originally, I believe, was a tool shed or some type of small tool factory. I've heard a few stories from residents in the community about one person told me that years ago, I think in the 60s or something, they were using it as a small community grocery store. But if you see the space, there's like one of our smaller the smaller room that we have in there, the smaller space in the complex itself, there's actually a hidden garage door. If you look at it from the outside and inside, you don't know there's a garage door there. So we believe that they used to pull cars into the space, work on cars. It has history behind it of different people, I guess, at different times got it and used it.
I would love to come and check it out and meet you, Mike.
Absolutely. You know, I hate Klaus and I talked about it once before. I think Klaus, you were just there maybe a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago. And I wasn't able to be there at the same time that he was there. But this whole pandemic is messing up stuff, because I would love to open it up and have this class come there and everyone kind of, walk through and see it. And I don't know the protocols with Wayne State, but I'll be open to letting people or making appointments for doing it on small groups, or people coming one by one, or whatever the case is. I'll be totally open to being there to kind of open it up so people can see it.
Mike,
I think I've seen somebody. Go ahead, Klaus.
Hold on 1 second. Let me show something there. Thomas, you can see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is kind of like, hold on. No, hold on. Actually, let me share it this way. There. So this is how it looks from the outside. That's the main entrance. So a nice big door. And then this is actually now the north part, looking north. And I'm panning now, looking west.
All right.
Then this is looking south. There you see the big door again. And this is actually now in the southern part. Here I'm just rotating around. So it's a fairly big, also dark space, which can have its advantage or disadvantage.
Yeah. Without windows, you can do. I mean, there's some, but you can mess with
Klaus,
Like,
Klaus, I want to point out something on that last picture you had. I
Which
think you were
one?
standing south. Yes. So if you look at the top right there, if you look at the top, above all that white wall there is, of course, plaster that is now crumbling, where, I don't know, at some point they decided to plaster that wall. But right above there is a little dark strip coming all the way across. That's brick, and I've had a construction company come in and look at that. Klaus, I don't know if I shared this with you. If you see, it goes all the way around. I've had a construction company come in, and some people that do painting and restoration and plaster for some of the homes in like Indian Village, some of those homes that are years and years old. And what they told me is that they looked at that brick, and it's the same brick that is in some of the larger, I don't want to say ancient, but older mansions like in Indian Village. They believe that brick may be close to 100 years old.
stop.
And
Can
so,
I share something that I think you would totally dig that's on this subject?
Good.
No, that's awesome, Mike. Like, I'm excited about that building. This is a little bit different, but I think it might be all right, do you see this?
Yeah, we do.
All right, so this is the Car Center, which is right across the street from Wayne State. I don't know if you're familiar with it. They had the historic building in Harmony Park, and then they moved for a few years, and they ended up going getting a location across from Wayne State. We've been working with them for a while. But they were, they just opened a gallery, and they poked through the drop ceiling and found this. And
wow.
like, it was a drop ceiling, 10 foot tall with offices. And they poked through it and found this. And they're restoring all of the architecture in there. And
Put the drop ceiling under it to hide it.
there was a drop ceiling, literally, like, it was offices. And then, like, when Oliver Ragsdale, the director, bought it, his assistant poked through the drop ceiling to do something, and they're like, "What?" So they just tore all this out. This was like, it reminds me of the same thing you're doing, Mike, like finding this, like, architect. And so this will be done by June. They're gonna restore it, but anyways,
That looks great. So I like, and in fact, the very first time Klaus came by and looked at it, I think it was in the winter as well, a couple of years ago, like 2 years ago, it was in the winter, and we were over there freezing. But walking around, I like raw material. I like raw material. I like raw spaces. And so I looked at that brick and said, I want to keep that brick there. Somehow make everything we can, finish things and get things together, but that brick needs to stay. I like that brick, that raw brick. And once I had this company come in, because I was doing some work in one of the other spaces in the complex, doing some work there, I was actually having the drywall refinished. And I just took them over to that space and said, you know what, could you help me to kind of restore this brick, keep this brick, power wash it, or what would we need to do? And he said, you know what, I want to send somebody else by to take a look at it. He sent another guy to take a look at it, and they came up with the consensus after, doing some work that they were doing in Indian Village. Don't mess with it. We think it may be about 100 years old. This is the same brick that's in the foundation of these homes. It's in the foundation of the homes, and they don't believe that I could buy that original brick anywhere. And so it's just little gems like that that we're finding. That yeah,
I love
yeah,
it that you call it little gems. That's what they are for sure.
right, right. I'm actually still in contact. Just seen him a few days ago, with the guy that bought it back in, I think maybe the early '80s or somewhere like that. It was all overgrown. All the outside had trees and grass coming all over it. You couldn't see the building there. And he's from Jamaica. He came, went to Canada. He moved to Canada for a while and left Canada and came to Detroit. And he found that little space, that little building, and he and a friend of his, he's used to Jamaica, so just kind of took a hatchet and went bushwhacking through,
Yeah.
and found this little building, and he kept it for years. His wife and he have come down with really, really bad arthritis. And so they no longer reside in Detroit because they can't take the cold weather. They go back and forth from Florida and Jamaica. And he was looking to get rid of it. There were some people that he was renting it out to who did not want to put any work into it. And so they were leaving. He didn't want it to sit because he didn't want it to get vandalized. And so I agreed to take it and to come up with a land contract term to get it. And we just slowly but surely, our small group did the work of kind of redoing things and getting it together. And now we're about ready to really start moving on that particular space that Klaus has pictures of.
That's beautiful. It's so beautiful. One thing that comes to mind is I don't know, Mike, are you familiar with Bushnell Congregational Church on Grand River?
I am.
Carla Williamson, who oversees that, she works for the city and runs classes out of there, art classes, runs the program for training cadets for the city. We go there every year and do art workshop programs, but that church is set up where they're starting to have gallery spaces and classrooms and stuff. And they're getting funding from the city too, I think, to help implement it. So I don't know. I'm just let me know if I can like get in the mix with what you're doing. I'm
sure, absolutely.
This is like exactly what my philanthropy is.
Gotcha.
Hey, Mike, you also mentioned you are in contact with an architect who might join this project, right?
Yes. So a architect who I met at a coffee shop. I actually met him at Desert Oasis in Royal Oak.
Tell me the name of the coffee shop so I can maybe I'm forever.
It's called Desert Oasis in Royal Oak, right there on Main Street. Going there any night of the week, and you may see me in there talking to someone.
Okay. Yeah, that's nice.
Yes, so this young architect who we just kind of struck up a conversation, started exchanging information with. He's interested in coming. So I'm actually, we're going to plan a day for him to come over as well to kind of take a look at it. And he's interested in how he could be a part as well. So I was talking to Klaus, and I was talking a few weeks ago about how, again, my background and my major interest is people. And so Klaus and I was discussing how maybe we just bring him in and introduce him to the class, introduce him to other people, and, just kind of do a whole networking thing and everybody get to know everybody, and everybody, their background and talent benefits everybody.
I love it. Klaus, if it's okay, can I invite my class to meet with your class, to meet with Mike? And maybe at some point we just have we'll just rock and roll.
Yeah. No, that's sure. Yes. And
yeah, I'll tell you what, if you guys work on, I'm sorry. I was gonna say, if you guys work on whatever the regulations are, and how that needs to be planned. I don't know, class sizes and
To
what
be
the
honest,
school
Mike,
prefers.
from what I've heard today and yesterday, Klaus might be able to vouch. The president of the university is pushing us back for the 31st. I already told my students we're spinning our wheels, so we're going to be in Zoom until March. But it feels like to me, I don't know, is your class hybrid? Are you guys hybrid, Klaus?
No, professional.
I don't think so, but
your Zoom, yeah.
we meet synchronous, but I set it up so that we can actually participate in site visits, and I think
So maybe like to be honest, Klaus and Mike, maybe beginning of March sounds best for at least my class, my students.
So I'm not aware of how the class structure is, but I was going to say, if you guys are comfortable with it, as the weather gets better, maybe going into spring, I'd love for you guys to bring both classes over. That way, we could have it open and it can be kind of indoor, outdoor.
That'd be killer. That'd be killer.
Yeah,
That'd be awesome.
I'll have my group kind of sponsor a little powwow,
We can maybe bring some funds in too and get food or whatever. I don't know. What do you think, Klaus? This is your class.
That would be so much fun.
I don't think we need to do the final presentation via Zoom. I mean, it would be actually nice to do the presentation somewhere else and then finally meet each other, not only in front of Zoom. Yeah.
Awesome.
I think that is definitely doable based on how students are confident, and who knows what we will be in a month or so. Yeah, very good. For the class, I was also really happy actually to hear how Mike contacted with an architect, because I'm not a trained architect. Fun story actually, while my parents were here, they told me even how the house I grew up in, how they built it on their own. They always talked about, yeah, we built it on their own, but I always thought like they meant like the hired people to do, but the majority of the house I grew up in was really self-made. So a lot of the renovations over the years are participated in, meaning I know a lot about framing and construction, but I'm not a trained architect, so there's a lot of stuff I do not know, which based on the photos, as you can see, which was really interesting what Mike also mentioned, I didn't know that, with the age of the brick stones. That's a historical value, but if you look into the video photos again, you will see that significant parts of the upper walls are replaced by a different type of stone. So the roof we have right now must have been actually added much later to the building when it was repaired, or whatever type of modification there was done. So it would be great, Mike, if maybe at one of the presentations the architect could maybe join too.
Yeah, we definitely can make that happen. Absolutely.
Yeah,
can make that happen. I think what was that, 2 years ago when you came over, again, just hitting on like little gems that's in the building as we're cleaning it out. This is something that I brought to the building and put in there. There is an old pot that I actually grew up with. My dad going on these vacations, we would visit family in the South, and he would always cook big batches of fish in this big cast iron pot where they build a fire up under it and cook. Well, I now have that pot, and what we've learned is the woman who raised my dad, who was his great aunt, she lived to be about 99. She had that pot when she was just a young girl. She lived to be about 99 years old. And we did some research, and what we found out, I think I have a picture somewhere. that where I showed it to you. What we found out is we actually have in our possession a pot of what they believe was what they called prayer pots, where African slaves used to turn the pot upside down and put their body in there, kind of halfway to say prayers to keep their voices from being heard. We actually have one of those pots in our building, and so it's little gems like that. I never knew that's what I was coming up with. I've seen it all my life, seen my dad with it, but didn't know why we were keeping it in our family for any reason until we started doing this research. But it's little gems like that that I would like to, when I say raw materials, kind of incorporate into the building, incorporate into what makes it have the vibe, so to speak, that it has.
Sorry, Mike. I love that. I love that. And I think it goes back to what I was talking about when the curator tried to block all the windows in our gallery to not show the Yamasaki pool. It's like these things are what makes the space and the energy and the aura and the architecture. But all right, I'll stop.
Very good. Perfect.
I'm feeling that. I'm like all the
Sweet.
Well, I'm glad we made this connection for the semester, Thomas. I think it will be a good collaboration between your area and our area.
I think so. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
For the class, we have roughly 30 minutes left. Any questions for Mike before also he takes off?
Sorry, Mike, real quick, Klaus, I have to bounce right now. Is that
Sounds
okay?
good. Yeah, that's perfect.
Thomas,
it was nice meeting all of you. Mike, it was awesome meeting
Mike,
you.
I will
Awesome
send out an
meeting
email
you.
to connect you with him.
Yeah, dude. I was gonna
cool.
say, or anybody can look me up on Instagram at just Mike Johnson.
All right, cool. I'm looking forward to this and nice meeting all of you, all the students, everything. This was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you,
Tom.
Klaus.
Super excited.
I'm just gonna say one comment. I felt interior design and architect and all this, it has to come with passion. Like he has, Tom's, he has his story, Mike, he has his story, the coffee shop, like it's all the combination. It's like a cozy house or a comfy house, or it's like make nice, very, very nice story, warm story. And I love that.
I love that too.
Passion.
That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, good seeing you all. I love that. Thank you. All right.
See you later.
Bye.
Well, here one of the interesting stories, and maybe for you all as students, is the sounds maybe unbelievable. But one of the biggest criticism of contemporary architecture is that we lost a connection to humans in architecture. We build buildings that look great. What do we build buildings for? For people to be in. And it sounds so impossible because it sounds so logical or common sense that if we make a building, we make it for somebody to be in it. So obviously we would consider the human aspect, but over the recent time, architecture became much more visual for the outside, but not really how do we use it in the inside. So true. Yeah. That's like, because we create with architecture, we create spaces where we interact.
Yes,
Yeah.
true.
Hi, I had a question for Mike. Has there been, over the last few years, has there been any of the designs that inspired some of your work that you've accomplished so far in the space?
You know what? Again, it's so much. Yes, there's been lots. I'm trying to think of like something specific. I'll tell you something like very, very quirky. I don't know how many of the students are from Detroit or raised in Detroit, but there's an old donut shop on Woodward and just past 6 Mile, called Dutch Girl Donuts. And we kind of used to go there to get fresh donuts because 24 hours and they were always making fresh donuts.
Know it and love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is an old, sadly, they've closed down now. But there was an old wood table there, big wood table that sat in the window that anytime you drove by, you could see them mixing the dough and making the dough. It's little small quirky things like that. That table has always stuck out to me. I don't know what it's about it. Another thing that really that I love, and anytime I'm out of town, I have to go to one. It's Apple stores. I love Apple stores. I love, I've been bit by the bug, so I like Apple products, period. But I more so just like their stores. I like to be in their stores. I like to see. I think it's Porus. No, Foster. Foster. I think is the name of the design firm that does all the Apple stores. Foster, but they did the main store, the flagship store in Chicago. I think it's now closed, on Michigan Ave, and it's set like right off the water. Beautiful space. If you can look that up and find some pictures of that on Google, I don't know who owns that building now, but that is one of my inspiration that stuck out to me. Apple stores in general, but that store in particular. And it's just little spaces like that. Again, religious spaces always stick out to me, of various religions and why they built them the way that they did. But yeah, I think a major influence that I'm always looking forward to, Apple stores.
Okay, so are you thinking like just like open concept, multi-dimensional?
Right.
You want to see the inner workings?
Well,
Right.
if you
I'm
actually
sorry, Clark.
if you Google Apple Store, it's really interesting. When Apple came out with this idea to do an Apple Store, they were ripped apart. They were laughed at. People said that's going to be such a failure. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't have a model for an Apple Store, it's a lame mall, because it's, I think what Mike also refers to, it's less really about, if you take the brand Apple away and think about the store, how it works, how it sets up, the question you really have to ask yourself, why? What is so different or special about it? And it's the proportions, the layout, the organization. Right. There's a lot really that goes into the Apple Store, how people navigate it. The store has different zones with different activities. I mean, they even house, for example, lectures and demos. Wherever did you see at a Best Buy stores somebody giving something like this? The only place I know that does it in a smart way is actually Home Depot, because Home Depot house actually small workshops for children, aka raising your future clients and customers. Right. But it's an interesting idea to buy a kit, have the kids come, they do a small craft project, maybe they figured out they really like working with their hands, and yeah, I mean, not everything that's corporate has to be evil.
Like the Apple stores, even so Shar mentioned it, the open concept, the flow of it, the metal space gray color, the gunmetal looking walls versus the plain white, and the white lights plus the light wood tables, the big bulky tables with the glass in the middle of it. All of these things, and then set in that glass is the different color Apple Watches. all of that stuff sticks out to me and kind of gets my interest. Another weird place that is a big inspiration to me and is a really big inspiration for this space is Crate and Barrel. Crate and Barrel is a very big inspiration to me. Specifically, the Crate and Barrel store in 12 Oaks Mall. If you are ever at 12 Oaks Mall and you walk through that Crate and Barrel store there that they just opened up, I don't know, maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, whenever they opened it up, that space. I go there not to buy anything. I go there just to walk around, just to be in the space. It's the combination of the colors, clean, open, the different textures of plates and forks and coffee machines versus the bedding and the sofas. It's just, yeah, it's all great to me.
I just want to say something. Sorry, I have to go to campus to come back from my 6 o'clock class, but I wanted to say thank you for being in our class today, Mike. It has been amazing
Thank you
to
for
listen to you. And that pot you had should be featured or, showcased in an exhibition or a gallery with a story behind it.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that this is recorded. I'll definitely watch whatever I'm missing. And it was an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's my honor to be here with you guys.
Thanks.
But Klaus, I think that's kind of it for me.
Mhm.
Unless you have something specific you want me to hit on.
No, you provided plenty of information. I will, on next class, I will do a brainstorming and concept development session with the students before I kick them off with the weekend homework. So right now would be two questions. Question number one: do you have the time? Would you be willing, if students contact you via email, to ask for questions or answers when they have questions?
Yes, that's fine with me.
Which email would be the best to share?
I think you may have the one with Glow in it. That one would be the best.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Then I will share this actually with the students. It would be perfect.
Okay.
Because in a traditionally before the pandemic project.
Sorry, I just seen that pop up. I don't know who that was. I did. I know Klaus will give you the email address. But yeah, Instagram. If I'm always checking that as well. It's just Mike Johnson. That's what just
Mike Johnson.
Mike. Yeah. And just is a part of the thing. Just Mike Johnson. Yeah. You're welcome.
So what I want to say is, traditionally I'm very research focused in my work too. So ideally I want students to develop, after a presentation like this, like an initial brief, be able to think about it, and then they have to develop a proposal. They should develop first actually questions to ask you. Now in person and all this stuff is a little bit more difficult. So if they could send you the questions via the email and then you could answer them, would be great. If you send him the questions, try to be mindful also of the time. So he doesn't have to spend too much time on it. But then this is actually one small exercise we will do, because then they have a little bit more time to think about it and might get more interesting questions and insights back. And then question 2 now would be more for the students to ask you if they have, or if you have any more questions right now before we actually end the class later, because now would be the best moment to continue asking Mike. In case you didn't notice, we're going to design a gallery space. So you have any questions for that?
I mean, he covered a lot of I would say hopes for the space, which is, very centered on, keeping it very, natural, organic, and open. So to be honest, I think we have a lot of information to take and run with.
Great, 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 great.
So for the way you described the Apple Store, so you were talking, most of the time I felt like how clean, the cleanness. So like the way they set up the office. So you prefer that's like as much as you can to have the store like last item, big space, or you like to fill all the spaces? Like you prefer to fill the spaces the way you described?
I think clean and open, however, at the same time, filled purposely and purposefully. Like when you walk into an Apple store, it's actually a lot in there. It's a lot going on, but it's the way that it's organized that makes it feel relaxed and open and flowy and airy. So yeah, a combination of the two, that the things that the space is filled with are filled, they're there on purpose.
Smooth, the way they put it, like.
Right. Again, it's the wood against the metal, against the white wall. So it's those plays on the different textures and colors and things of that nature. So I think you're, along with Shar J, the natural textures, the natural materials, how that goes, in play.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to confirm too, because when you were talking about it, you were kind of speaking in terms of kind of making it multi-use. So you don't want like any fixtures that's going to be permanent, right? You want some things that can move around. So I think you mentioned like kind of having, artists come in and they can use the space, but also at some points, it'll be something that will be rented out. So kind of like a blank canvas for people who to, make it their own. Or are you gonna also think in terms of, say for instance, the congregation grows, opening up that space to have, the larger space for the congregation to have, your like meetings.
Yeah. So I would like a space that does not have too many fixed in, so that it can, can change based, because it will be rentable as well, so that we can change it. But along with that, kind of in my mind, I would like for people that rent the space to want to rent it because of the way we've thought about how it looks, the vibe that it carries. I would like, or I think of people wanting to rent it because that's a unique space and not completely just blank. I don't know. I know that's kind of contradictory, but
no, it makes sense. It makes sense. You want them to fall in love with the space and actually utilize it for its character. That makes totally sense.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And to go a little bit more, one step further, Mike and I, we also talked about phase 1, possible phase 2 on Wednesday when I show you more the spaces also from Google Maps. The photos I gave you shows actually just the garage, so where we create the exhibit space, studio space. Think about like a flex space, but then they also own the rest of the building which you're using. The building also has a kitchen which they plan to rework. Behind the buildings, a strip of land which you bought already, Mike, right?
Right. So we're in the
process.
We maintain the property.
You maintain,
that's
okay.
behind.
Yeah.
But we're looking now to just secure it all together.
Yeah.
We actually ran into some problems the last time we talked about that. we ran into some problems because we were looking at it as one plot of land, and it's actually 3 different plots of land. So there's 3 different owners to kind of track down and see if, you know, taxes are paid, if they want to do anything with it, all of that stuff.
And then Mike also talked about there's across the street in a complete different building, was an old school, and what they could do with this. So they have a vision which goes to span over many years of construction, but we have to start somewhere. And
right,
we will, in the first project base, or in what we primarily will do, we will do 2 things actually. We will generate a proposal for how they could set up the gallery space, which also means everything that goes into the gallery has to be built by the peoples. So we as interior designers are also going to kind of like design walls, stages, benches, tables, etc. And then to finish this project up, we also could provide some, well, if you have over the next span of years more funding with this area, we could do this, and kind of like in a suggestive way provide the vision, maybe what could be done more in a 2-dimensional way. But that empty space where you saw the photos for, that is where we're very actively working in a 3-dimensional space. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, we were talking about that, and I agree. You know, doing it in stages, what it can be, presenting what this community, what this space can be, and not only just us as a sub community within the larger community, but how we benefit the larger community, the city of Detroit, in doing what we're doing. And how that actual community, because we don't want to just kind of occupy this space because we have it, and just kind of put in the middle of this community what we want to be there. But we kind of want to benefit them. Again, the thought behind our space is not only art, but people, and how we will enhance the community by being there. How even by us and you guys designing this space, how that will beautify and bring up the sense of well-being in the community, as well as the sense of value to the people. That, hey, this is in the middle of us, and we're a part of that.
So you're thinking more of like outreach, Mike, like community outreach, togetherness kind of thing?
Yep, together with that.
As you're speaking, it reminds me of the Community Artist Village. You've been there in that area last year in Grand River area. Sounds very much so like what you're speaking of. They have like a whole, you know, artist community, poets and things of that nature. And they utilize every building over there, even the alleyways. And they have some really great exhibitions and things going all through the summer and such.
Yeah. So absolutely like that. Again, because we want, you know, this space, this is our space, and we want it to look nice. One for our sub community, one for a space where people want to come in and enjoy themselves, even rent out. But again, that it is a space that provides a service for the larger community that we're in the bringing up of the well-being and the sense of value to our people. So absolutely incorporating outreach in that. Right now, even Klaus brought up how we have a kitchen area. In that kitchen area, I told you early on that we were kind of working on how to do kind of a grassroots cafe, coffee shop there. in that space right now, we have been started collecting clothes to develop a free clothes store. It's something that we've been doing on our property for a few years now. Where in the summertime we set up an outdoor clothing store with different departments on the parking lot for men and women and children, and we kind of let the community or those in needs come onto the parking lot, come onto the property, and with dignity shop for free, and they get quality items that they need. One of the outreaches that have been a part of the space recent outreaches was bringing in the barber shop that I go to. Those, you may be familiar with the term sneakerheads. Getting sneakerheads to donate some of their sneakers for people who need good quality, nice, clean shoes, but can't afford them. And so, yeah, that working again, the thought is for us, life is art, and we want to be a part of the life of art. And so, people, what affects people goes into, I think Klaus said it, he said that not just thinking in terms of design and building as a structure or a building, but the people that move within those spaces.
You were back to emotional feeling, the love and warm feeling. Go always, you turn and you go back to emotional and warm feeling toward the people and the community.
Yes. Because, and I think you get that sense because at the heart, at the core, more than just physical space, architecture, art, textures and colors, coffee shops and Apple stores, more than just that, I like people. I love people. And I think I mentioned this, I love how these spaces make people feel, and the impact that it has on their emotions and their well-being, their sense of being. And so if we can design a space that incorporates that or that has that at its core, great if we rent it out, but also even better if people just come into the space and feel loved and feel welcomed and feel hopeful. And I think all of that goes into, humanity. All of that goes into design.
That's very, very true. Sky, building protect us from the elements, but then they facilitate our activities.
Right.
Or not, if you look at modern architecture.
I changed my mind, Klaus. I changed my mind. I asked you a question about this program, Archi Interior. So I'm just gonna stick with the interior. I'm not gonna do exterior.
There's really this project will actually be very interesting because this, for me as a faculty, this has many valuable aspects and activities which transform into learning outcomes for you. First is it's a really great opportunity to have a client that has the time to talk to. So Mike will be a perfect person to ask the questions, because for us as designers, as you know, and will hear me very often saying, what I like doesn't really matter. What's important is that what I do fits what the client wants. Ideally, I want to like what I'm doing too, but there are also projects I don't like, but I still have to do it. And I need to be able to like these projects too. Not to say that this project isn't interesting, but it's just, there's a danger of just always approaching something from the point of, well, I like this. Mike has to like it. It needs to fit the need of his community, etc. And then also, because of the state of the building, this is a terrific opportunity to learn a little bit about building construction. we're not architects. Some of you might actually go to architecture school, but we also more than just making a nice living room. We can learn about these things even when we're not architects by simply consulting literature and using projects like this to build up a basic understanding. I don't know everything. Sometimes we have a question. I mean, as you can see, I have a wall of books. I just go to the book and just try to find the information. Really also useful when you talk to a contractor or an architect might hire you to do something, but then you need to be able to talk with them about what you're doing. So you need to have you need to be able to propose designs where the contractor is not thinking that the person doesn't know what they're talking about. And then also the scale of it is a small room and it's a design challenge. How can we create something that's really interesting and really is useful? But there's a lot of potential actually inside this space, working with the architecture and then everything what we put into there to create the experience Mike essentially is really talking about. Even while this is the way how I, for example, see this, even while this is going to be a gallery studio space, but as you hear what Mike, like I took actually a lot of notes while he was talking. What I noticed where he always goes back to is the people. How do the people feel there? So this is really about an experience project.
Yes.
The rest is more film material. Kiam, you have your hand up.
Oh, it's still up. I'm sorry,
Oh.
but I agree what he said.
Oh.
I forgot to put it down. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I think it's Zoom actually automatically. If you move your hands up, sometimes it puts the hand up.
Ah, I should stop moving then.
Yeah, cool. Mike, before I let the class go, Mike
Yes.
Johnson.glow@gmail.com.
That's correct. MikeJohnson.glow, GLOW, @gmail.com.
And then just Mike Johnson is your Instagram.
Just Mike Johnson. That's the Instagram.
Okay.
Yep. Another Instagram, that's my personal Instagram, or you can also go to the Detroit Urban Art Center on Instagram.
Oh, okay.
The Detroit Urban Art Center.
One word.
Yep.
Okay.
And we're developing that one now, so it'll be more posts if you want to follow that one, and you can kind of follow along with the posts that we put up there.
Okay, perfect.
That's
Awesome.
with the in front of it, right? The Detroit Urban Art Center.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Oops, I didn't do that. I'm not really. I use a lot of technology, but Instagram, etc. I only have Facebook, so my wife can say she's married to me.
That's funny.
Otherwise, I stay away from that stuff. Like, can you see this on there? And they're like, nope, no time for it.
So I'm sorry, Shark J. The official name is the Detroit Urban Art Center. If on Instagram, it's Detroit Urban Art Center.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the opposite. I thought it was just Detroit Urban Art Center is the name, and then the Detroit Urban Art Center was Instagram. So we're gonna flip that. Okay.
Yep.
So would you mind, Mr. Claus, to send it to us, like, the correct spelling or when you have a chance, please?
Could you just repeat?
Oh, I said if you can email it to us or post it on Canvas, that would be nice.
I'm doing that right now because I'm getting
Thank
Thomas's
you.
email address too.
I'm trying, sorry.
No, it's okay. This is okay. Because I'm putting Thomas's information into, because I got the feeling that he really loves this project and wants to be more involved, which is actually perfect. Okay. I posted it inside the announcements. There's now the contact information and everything.
Thanks
Very good.
so much.
Perfect. Mike, thank you so much for the long time.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me. It's my honor. It really is.
I'm always a failure with time management because I thought like, no, half an hour Mike, half an hour Thomas, and I have like an hour and a half with the students and class is done. Wah, wah. Well, I hope that for all it was not too long to sit in, but I personally really enjoyed this discussion and listening actually to Thomas. I know Thomas now since 10 years, and today, unfortunately, because of living away from campus, not being close, and having a baby and everything, I never really learned much about his own work. So for me myself, this was actually very informative today.
I guess we're gonna do the same coffee that you met inside that building. So we will do the same coffee and have people come and make friends and enjoy their coffee there and meet a lot of friends. That my first thought came to my head.
Absolutely. I'll try to make that happen. It's an Ethiopian coffee, and I put just a little bit of honey in there and a little bit of rose oil in there.
Okay,
Really good.
you'll be the manager.
Yeah.
You have to show me that coffee. I really like coffee, but I never had Ethiopian coffee.
Okay.
Very good. Well, yeah, I would say we can finish class today. I will, once this recording is done, I will post it to YouTube. Then we have it for reference. I will post a small assignment, nothing too complicated, for next class Wednesday, because we will do then a brainstorming and discuss everything from today, so that for next week, then you can work actually on your on your initial concept idea, what to do with the space. Mike, thanks for everything, and for everybody else, have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Bye.
Thank you.